Hello and welcome to This Game in 5 Minutes. I am your host, Trumpet63, and it is my job to single-handedly expand your sphere of video game knowledge. Today's game is Trackmania Nations Forever, which is a free PC racing game, which can only be described as extremely competitive and very unique. When you're racing online with other players, your car has the same speed as everyone else's, and there is no collision. Another thing that stands out about this game is its beautiful graphics. Even a substandard computer like mine can run the game with no problem thanks to the variety of options that the game gives you. Also especially important in a racing game is its controls, and I'd have to say that this game controls very well, especially considering it only uses the keyboard. Now before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a look at this game from start to finish. Please excuse the pun. Starting the game for the first time, you'll need to create your profile, which is a very simple process that I'm sure you're all familiar with. You just need to enter a username and a password, and that's all. Then you can get started. This game also supports multiple profiles, which is useful if you're sharing the computer with someone else. After a quick ad about the latest Trackmania, we get to see the welcome screen. From here you get access to all of the game's features, as well as some community news if you're playing online. Another online feature you'll see is called the Buddy List. It's basically where you can just add friends and keep track of their progress in the game, especially in single player. You can also join them if they happen to be playing in a server. A very useful tool, I think. As you can see, your buddy request needs to be confirmed by the other player first, before you can see what they're doing. Don't forget to send me a request as well. Before you jump into an online server, you're going to want to get some practice in first. Solo play is where you can do that. In solo play, the object is to collect medals as you improve your time on each track. To get started, on the left you can select your difficulty, which in this case is represented by colors, white being the easiest and black being the most ridiculously difficult. Once you select a difficulty, you'll be presented with all the tracks that you can play. Each track falls into a specific category, which describes what you're going to be doing on that track. Endurance tracks, for example, will have you running multiple laps, while acrobatic track will have you doing loops and jumps and crazy things that you can't even imagine. Once you get started, you'll see that you can select a specific medal to race against, gold being the most difficult. Once you've raced on the track before, you'll also be racing against your ghost, which can be turned on or off. There's many options in the game. And as I mentioned before, there's no collision. And believe it or not, after you've beaten a gold medal, there's an additional secret medal that you should be trying to achieve. Once you do, this means that you will have beaten the creator's own best time on the track, which is easier said than done, because as I mentioned, this is an incredibly competitive game. And, once you're satisfied with your time, you could share it with friends through what's called a manialink, or simply by file. Now that I've given you a taste of what the game is like, let's take a look at what the game is really all about. Competition. And naturally, the best place to compete is online. Immediately you can see, this game is a worldwide obsession. They even have countries themselves competing against each other, in addition to individual players. For each race you win, you earn a small amount of ladder points based on how many ladder points the other players had. And naturally, you'll also be able to see the rankings of the people you're racing with. To join a server quickly, you'll want to click on Suggested Servers. From there you'll see a short list of servers, which I can only imagine is selected based on your location. When you select a server, to the right you'll be able to see the tracks that they're playing, which will basically have no meaning to you if you're not a regular player of the server. You can also see how many players are currently in the server, and their stats. But enough fussing over the details, let's look at some gameplay footage. Hopefully immediately you can tell that playing on a server is vastly different from playing by yourself. There's so many things crowding your screen, it's ridiculous. But all you need to know is, the top left is your current place, and to the right you can see how much time is left. It's also important to note that different servers will have a different setup, but from what I've seen, they're all ridiculously confusing. There's also a chat box at the bottom, but who has time to talk while you're racing? And as with any online game, racing on is a mixed bag. You can get tracks that are annoyingly long and confusing, or just tracks that don't even make any sense or are not based on skill at all. As always, it's better to leave rather than waste your time. You should also know that because you're playing the game for free, they do impose certain limitations. After a few games, you'll have to take a break for one game, which I know is kinda lame, but at the same time, you gotta admit, for a free game, this is pretty awesome. What might be important for you to know, however, if you're playing online, free players are also playing with pay players. Oddly enough, the pay version has a different name as well. It's called United Forever. And along with it, you naturally get access to more tracks, more features. But interestingly enough, the pay players can also place wagers with this online currency called coppers. You're not going to be able to buy a pizza with it, but there are certain features that can only be unlocked with coppers in the pay version. And when you're not racing online, you also get access to something that's called the manialinks Explorer, which is basically a way to access certain parts of the community and help files. Beyond that, it's a little confusing. Speaking of confusing, you can also host your own server, which I managed to do, but I don't have footage of it because it's really not the easiest process, but I'll try to post some things down below that might give you a few tips. And now, believe it or not, there's still quite a bit more to this game. You have the ability to create custom tracks as well, using either the basic or the advanced editor. For starters, naturally, you'll want to use the basic editor. Creating tracks with the basic editor doesn't really give you a whole lot of options, unfortunately. But if you're looking to create a simple, flat racetrack, or one with just a few jumps, then this is the editor for you. There are some aspects of the game that will require a little bit of trial and error. Some of the parts don't exactly fit together very well, and if you're trying to create a slightly more complicated track, you'll need to play around for a little while. Generally speaking though, in each editor you'll be allowed to use a starting point, an ending point, and several checkpoints in between. You do not have to hit the checkpoints in any specific order, but you do have to go through all of them. Be sure to take that into consideration when you're creating your track, because it's surprisingly easy to cheat on most tracks. And now, if you've bored yourself with the basic editor, I have good news for you. The advanced editor is actually very easy to use. All of the track pieces you can use are divided into sections called folders, and you'll need to navigate through these folders in order to find the pieces you're looking for. There's quite a few to choose from. And after you've finished creating your track in either the basic or the advanced editor, you'll have to go through what's called the verification process, which is basically just racing on the track from start to finish, so that the game knows that you've created a track that can be completed. And then, once you've created your monstrosity of a racetrack, you can share it with friends quite easily, usually by file, or you can host a server using your tracks only. Creating your own tracks with the track editor can be a whole lot of fun, and it's a good way to waste a few hours. And now, as if that wasn't enough customization, you can also edit the look of your own car, which, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to show to anyone else if you're playing the free version. But if you plan on making videos, you'll at least be able to show it to people then. Now, let's take a look at this. Basically, over to the bottom right, you'll see that you have a wide selection of colors. Over to the left, you can control what's going to happen when you place these particular objects on your car. I'd have to say that by far the most useful tool is the Paint with Mirror Symmetry button. It basically copies whatever you do on one side of the car to the other side of it, so that it looks nice and symmetrical. Everybody likes symmetry. And as you might have noticed, you get a wide selection of shapes to choose from. You can even apply text to your car as well. After you play around with it for a little while, I'm sure you'll be able to create something interesting. It certainly isn't a traditional paint job, but it was worth the effort. And now, last but not least, we're going to take a look at the replay editor, which I can only describe as kind of hard to use and a little bit overcomplicated in my opinion. Now, regardless of the fact that I have no idea how to use it, the replay editor does seem quite fully featured. Basically, the replay is divided up into blocks, and with each block you can do a variety of things. You get to choose from an entire selection of effects that I really have no clue about. So in the end, if you're not satisfied with the default type of replay, then I'd suggest looking up a different video on how to use it. And naturally, with any replay, you can send and save it just like everything else within the game. So finally, in conclusion, I'd have to say that despite being rather old, Trackmania Nations Forever is quite good. And best of all, from what I've seen, the online community is still quite active. You should have no difficulties finding a server to join in at most times of day. And now, if you happen to be gaming on the cheap, you can buy this game for free. $0.00 in any country. Although there is one downside, this game will only work on Windows. Not good for Mac. I am terribly sorry. Perhaps there's another version you can find out there. If there is, you might want to comment down below and let me know. But anyways, yeah, it's free, so go get it. It's a great asset to your hard drive. And now, before I end the video, this is very important, so pay attention. If you want to see more videos about this game, look no further than in the description. I have handpicked a nice selection of videos covering just about all categories of things you might want to watch. And best of all, these videos are picked from you, the viewer. And if you happen to be a video creator and you see some gap in the description below where there's a category that you should be able to fill, then I suggest you send me a private message with a link to your video and you could see it featured below. What better way to get free publicity? Yes. Please do not put these links in the comments. I will delete them very happily. And now I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. If you happen to enjoy the video, please share it with a friend, comment below, hit the like button, any of the above. You should also comment below if you think I did anything wrong. Please help me improve these videos. And have a nice day.